I'm Zuri, and this is the Creatives. Hey, everybody! Welcome to the Creatives Purpose. I am so excited to have Mallory, Mal the model, Mal all the things, joining me today. She has been doing such amazing things in fashion and production and front of the camera, behind the camera, events. So, you all, this is Mallory Richardson. Mallory, how are you doing?
I'm well. Actually, today I'm excellent. Thank you so much for asking and affording me the opportunity to talk with your audience. Zuri, it's such a pleasure seeing you again, chatting, knowing that you're well, and so excited to talk with everybody and share my wealth of information and experience.
So here I really just like to encourage people about, that are interested in entering into all these different types of industries and just hearing people tell their stories about what their experience has been like in the industry and then also their ability to maintain their faith because a lot of times it may feel like we have to compromise or we have to do one thing or the other to go into some of these places. So I want to ask you, how did you get started in fashion?
So
And I know
I
you're
got
not just fashion, but how'd you get started in
no,
fashion?
yeah, okay. We can start there, and we'll
Yeah.
just let this conversation go with God and where it's destined to go. I got into the fashion industry officially in 2014, after many years of being complimented on my personal style and how I carried myself as a plus size woman. I decided that clothing styling was really going to be an amazing outlet for me to not only develop more interpersonal relationships with people and develop my craft in fashion formally. So, pulling and doing personal shopping and styling was my entry point. Prior to 2014, I had did some work in pageantry, and
Mhm.
that shifted with me in 2015 when I was a part of the first Miss Full Figure North Carolina pageant.
Mhm.
And it just opened me up to so many people that were like, okay, this community industry is evolving, and it gave me the opportunity to meet new people, which would then turn into respective clients. So I wanted to style with purpose, and predominantly I supported plus size women. But then over time, I decided, why would it just necessarily be for plus when we're, essentially working towards equity in body
Mhm.
types, when it comes to sourcing fashion and beauty. And diversity is a huge part of my business platform, the owner of the platform experience. That's my formal brand title. And I just decided to expand. So, for ladies that were specifically going through a transition in their body type or just had their first or third child, had lost or gained a significant or minor amount of weight, those are challenges that sometimes can really throw not only our wardrobe but our confidence in fulfilling who we really feel like we're destined to portray through our fashion and beauty efforts. So I started working with ladies in that respect, whether it be milestone birthdays, photo shoots. And it naturally evolved into pose coaching as I became more into the modeling space, which probably happened between 2015 and 16.
Okay.
So my journey began with clothing, with respect to styling and wardrobe
Mhm.
selection and more pageantry and then into me modeling. And honestly, even in 2016, I didn't really realize that there was a potential for me to develop into a plus size model or the plus size model I have evolved into and now a brand for almost 7 years. So
Mhm.
it's just a phenomenal space and time to really implement all the things that I like to see and several others around the world, which is more diversity and inclusion with representation for women of color and
Mhm.
size on the runway, in print campaigns, in ads, and in commercials. So my personal brand, I was able to expand just simply based on women that wanted, needed, craved the service and the opportunity to work with me. So that's how I came into where I am now.
I know my first time I heard you was different than my first time interacting with you. I believe we interacted through me reaching out for styling, and then it was, I believe you were a part of an event. You competed and you
Mhm.
won this amazing title
Yes.
of for Full Figured Fashion Week. And it was so interesting because I remember I walked in Full Figure Fashion Week, and then I see you are this face for Full Figure Fashion Week, and it's like, come on, so
Pull up,
amazing.
come through.
Yes.
And I'm glad you brought it up, Zuri, because so many times I think people, when they think the term model, they don't think of all that really a model can entail,
Mhm.
from the inside out. So that particular role, I was the 2017 face of Full Figure Fashion Week based in New York, for those that aren't familiar. And the competition was simply a YouTube video submission with direction to answer a couple questions and to be myself.
Right.
And I literally was still very new, a year or two into what I was doing formally. And I was like, you know what? I had a couple friends that introed me to, was it, I think it was District Occurs fashion show.
Mhm.
And they were like, no, you have it. Like, you
Mhm.
just need to embrace it and move in this. You're not just a stylist, you're not just a pageant girl. Like, you have a lane in fashion and you don't even realize it. So I'm
Mhm.
like, okay. And then this opportunity became available, and I said to myself, I might not be the tallest, I might not qualify in some people's standard terms of being on their runway or in their campaign, but what I do have is a phenomenal personality.
Mhm.
And that personality has taken me all types of places that people or man would think, no, not so much. But God used that in me
Mhm.
to let people know that there are alternatives and there is a space for you. And whatever is really destined as your path is gonna things are gonna just start to clear and it's gonna be a way for you. So for the first time, I shot a video with a professional local female brown entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and my niece was just born. She was in the video. I had a plus size nonprofit organization going at the time. I highlighted some of my ladies in the video. And it was just really to say, hey, this event and this movement is phenomenal. I want to be a part of it, especially as an Indigenous woman. And
I
that's
was gonna
also
say, come
another
on.
subset. Yes, it's,
Yes.
it's, it's so many, girl. This is just
Honey, you're
making me
layered.
so proud, very layered, and
Layers.
it's sincerely making me so much more appreciative, even sitting here talking to you and talking through my journey, because it's sincerely phenomenal. It's not a lot of women that look like me with respect to my indigeneity or my height, within this industry.
Mhm.
And look at me making a way, carving a way, talking about it in interviews, and inspiring young girls and boys from my tribal community to seek out the things that you don't even think you qualify for, or that people may not readily welcome you with open arms. If you're passionate about it, if
Mhm.
you're willing to learn and, be humble enough to submit yourself to
Mhm.
the desires of what God calls over your life, then I
Mhm.
say, who are we to challenge that or question that? And we have to just create support mechanisms for creatives, and hence what you're doing with this platform, because so many times self-sabotage or doubt,
Yep.
or lack of support
Mhm.
really impact our quality of life. And so many times, like, years will go by and people will look back and have all of these moments of what if, or I should have. And why? we just have to put ourselves out there. And even now, and I feel that I'm very blessed to have worked with some amazing people and crafted my skill the way I have. We all have to start somewhere,
Mhm.
and we can't do it alone either. And that's
Mhm.
been a challenge of mine because over time and in business, when you feel that not everybody is as trustworthy or
Yeah.
business ethics aren't like top of mind, that you kind of retreat to self and
Yeah.
say, I'm just going to figure this out for myself. I'm not really going to ask anybody. They may take my ideas and all these things. So it literally is one of those things you have to really think consciously about, be strategic, but we're all human and we have to take things a day at a time. And then we develop a roadmap and just create and trust in that faith that is supposed to be instilled in each of us and move forward and be great.
Hmm. One thing that's very encouraging to me, and I believe it's going to be encouraging to those that watch this, is the fact that you are literally kind of creating or following the plan that God has for you. So it may or may not look like what Susie or Lachelle over here. I had to come up with some name.
Well, Lachelle works.
Right. It may not look like theirs, but you have such success in the lane that he has placed you in with whatever twists and turns it may have taken. And
Exactly. And you have to feel power in that.
yeah, because one thing that's interesting is that you're in North Carolina.
Mhm.
And when people think about fashion, that might not always be the place that they're thinking, oh, I can be successful in this place.
Mm-hmm. It literally, and it's been times I won't sugarcoat a lot of anybody. I'm very honest. North Carolina is one of those places that is behind with all the progression we're
I'm
seeing.
in
And
Kentucky, so.
look, yes, and when it's tough. However, there are opportunities that you can see. So as my brand continued to grow, I started to have this community space on my social platforms and websites and through my event. I started even creating some roles for myself. There are always small businesses that are looking for influencers. There are mid-level companies and brands right in your local community that say, hey, we do have a small budget, or we would like to work with you in a TFP space to provide you ways to grow your portfolio and your experience. And people get narrow-minded sometimes. I have
Mhm.
done everything from tasteful lingerie work, bra and fittings. I've done a lot of bridal and I've done ready to wear. I've also been a spokesmodel, which was my technical role as the face, and
Mhm.
done parts modeling as well. Beauty campaigns, work with
Mhm.
beauty businesses. So by choosing to place yourself in not so limited of a capacity, or saying this is all I want to do, this is all I want to do, open yourself up a little bit, try some new things, because you might be surprised that you
Mhm.
might actually like different types of modeling experiences, or you might say, you know what, I really thought I was into high fashion or avant-garde stuff, which honestly people love to think that, but editorial isn't that
People pay
top
like
notch of a booking.
yeah.
No, it's not. And again, still with the education, because people only think one type of model, and they think of Naomi, and I'm like, but do you know how many Gap ads and other
Mhm.
campaigns that like Precious Lee has worked on, and she's amazing, but she has crossed over into some high end designer fashion. But do you think that would have been a possibility if there wasn't other groundwork done
Mhm.
between her and the people that laid that work before her? So it takes us to be out there, to be present, to be booking and networking and reputable brands, to really get ourselves out there and be sought after, so that they are looking for us at this point. It's not like we're having to force the door open. So yeah. And I think with the recent trends, I'm gonna add another thought. The
No,
recent
you're fine.
trends of more mature models and
Yeah.
wanting people with disabilities.
Mhm.
It's opened up, and it's the same thing that Plus have had to, invest over the like decades to really get ourselves to this place, because we've come a long way from Emmy modeling and
Yeah.
being the first like
I was gonna say just
notable
from
Plus model.
2015 to 22, it's been
Yes.
such a reach.
Hmm.
I was gonna say, what I was looking up was I wanted to make sure I shared the correct title of the event that you put on is Crusade of Curves.
Yes.
And I wanted to bring that up because you have such a wealth of knowledge, and then you've now created this experience in this show for others to now come alongside and their faces to be seen as well. Tell me a little bit about the start of that.
So literally, I was fresh off the Miss Full Figure pageant.
Mhm.
And when I was cultivating Buku, which was my plus size nonprofit, I did that off the strength that I was listening to the ladies that I was meeting. The ladies were like, we just really did this for the sisterhood and the relationship, not because we love pageants. And I said, that's interesting. And then I thought about the concept of sororities over the years. What has it
Mhm.
provided? Sisterhood and organization and service. So I said, okay, we're having this dilemma in North Carolina where there aren't opportunities for us by us. So why not
Mhm.
create it? And that's what I did. Many times, plus, I can't tell you, there was one plus size production that started the year after me, but Crusade of Curves is and will always be the first designated plus size runway show to North Carolina.
Mhm.
Um, and I decided, because in my time in styling and doing that for pageant girls for fashion productions, I developed a love for in front of the camera and behind the scenes. So I
Mhm.
said, if I can do this and do this well and work my networks, inclusive of small businesses that say, hey, I would invest a small fee to be at a vendor marketplace. I mustered up my own monies and
Mhm.
launched, and it was just something that I knew. I said, okay, well, I have this budget. I have to partner up with people in the local community. People need this. They've been telling me this, and I leveraged that as a talking point when I met, called, emailed people as a recruiting mechanism to broaden the spectrum of the showcase. So Crusade started as a 2-day event and ultimately had expanded. The largest year was 4 days.
Okay.
And I not only wanted it to be about plus size fashion, but I wanted it to serve community. I also wanted to touch on health and wellness. So that's where my nonprofit always sponsored and made the event the Thursday night free, where
Mhm.
it was focused on, healthy eating tips, vegan options, health and wellness workout regimens, talking about STDs, and
Mhm.
even having speakers from the local community come into our space and discuss that. And these were all like resources that are at people's fingertips, but I wanted to bring them under one roof or one brand for a weekend of true support. And the first year was amazing. All like very local people from one end of the state to the other, and a lot right in the capital of Raleigh, which the show was produced 3 years. And then the fourth year, we were in Charlotte.
Mhm.
And the fifth year, which was just last year, we did 3 locations. So we went on tour in the pandemic, and it's just been phenomenal. After our first year, and then I was adorned with the title of the Face of Full Figured. Of course, that expanded the network of not only talking about my personal modeling brand, but my business brand. And people were like, wait, this girl is going to do a show like on top of everything. So then you have this much larger community, then they'll starting to fly in and they're saying,
Mhm.
yeah, we're coming, we're supporting you, we're your Full Figure Fashion Week family, we are the people that volunteered up here, but we want to be an extension of what you're doing. And then it went from there. So I'm just so thrilled that we are now in our 6th year.
Mhm.
We're going to be hosting in Houston, Texas this September. and
Okay.
extremely excited. Yes, extremely excited. The venue is booked, and I'm even changing the platform just slightly, but it's going to be an amazing switch up. And I think people, once I get to announcing and really marketing the event, they're going to be pleasantly surprised to see what I have up my sleeve in
Yeah.
production planning, because we all know that the last 2 years have truly been something on our mental and our spiritual. So we're going to feed back in and put back into people in those spaces. And I'm going to do it via Crusade this year.
Goodness gracious. So basically, you are a business period. Tell me a little bit about just your business background because you have such this mind for starting things, developing them, figuring out how to maneuver in different spaces. Tell me about that and also the importance of that even in modeling.
Yes, it is very twofold. It's a skill that, for my personal modeling brand, very important. I tell people when they ask these questions that literally is in my blood. My dad is an entrepreneur. He has been an entrepreneur throughout the course of his life. He throughout my life, he's owned three different convenience stores. I remember I was just born, and there are pictures of me in his very first convenience store.
Wow.
And even his grandparents owned the only shoe store in my tribal community
Okay.
back, and I was a youth at that point in time too, before it went out of business. And on my mom's side of the family, several of her siblings were also in business. And so from a young age, my mom was sending faxes, picking up phone calls for my dad when he was even a truck driver on the road as well. And I knew, like, dad might not be home for a couple of days, but it's all worth it. And I would listen diligently to my mom, praise his efforts in really pursuing the things that he was passionate about. And he didn't think linear, he
Mm.
thought broadly and creating legacy. So that's sincerely a bit that I take with me in every ounce of the things that I'm doing, creating, and building, is because I do want to create a legacy brand for my children and the children of the Richardson lineage to come.
Mhm.
So I learned a lot from him. There were times where I would ask a lot of questions, not really even understanding the industry, but core business and best ethical practices were
Mhm.
always very ingrained in me. So for me, I always tell people at the core of my business structure is ethics, as well as a pursuit of diversity and inclusion. So forge those things together, and really across any industry, those are important.
Yeah.
I just happen to be sincerely passionate about fashion and now beauty, because I have a beauty business as well.
I
So
was gonna mention that one, but I didn't wanna, like, mispronounce how to pronounce it. It's
yes,
Grandeur?
grandeur,
Grandeur. Okay.
grandeur. And I mean, I think that with my space in fashion, I couldn't help but think business, right? So
Yeah.
the fashion business is growing. However, the beauty business is on fire as well.
Yeah.
And for those two to work collectively in tandem with each other, I let me back up. A few years back, when my budget was small as a model,
Mhm.
we all have to invest, and we have, let's say we got $200, and we got to figure out, okay, how I'm gonna get 3 looks out of that. I might need a new pair of shoes. My hair needs doing, and makeup.
Mhm.
Okay. So I had always been gifted in an artistic space in hair and makeup. So I was
Mhm.
able to save a lot of money over the years because I researched, I looked at some of my favorites that were in the modeling game, and I was like, okay, well, it's nothing crazy. I can do that. And
Mhm.
oh, I don't need Instagram makeup. I can
Yeah.
do that. And even
Say that
with,
part again.
look, I don't need Instagram makeup, and no shade to the artists that create those, phenomenal.
Right.
Like, I love it. It looks beautiful, but that's not what gets you booked
Mm.
in a commercial or lifestyle space.
Mhm.
So I worked and I saved, and this even takes me back to high school when I was paying for prom because I was doing manis and petties in my bedroom. I
Mhm.
took hair clients back then when I was 16 and 17 years old and no license. But I'm just saying, the hustle is real. And this has
Yeah.
just been a part of my makeup for so long that, I don't even think in recent time, and I'm big on reflection, that I've thought back and really praised or congratulated myself on just how much I have invested and accomplished over this time. So with Grandeur, it just felt like this is destined, because I work in makeup, even though I don't consider myself an MUA and I don't take clients at this point. But
Mhm.
I said, how can I tap into beauty?
Yeah.
And what captured me was lashes. So I first got certified in doing lashes.
Mhm.
And then there was my girlfriend actually was like, now I need a model. And I said, a model for what? And she's like, oh, I'm taking microblading. I'm becoming
Okay.
certified in microblading. So I sat in, and I remember it was very snowy that weekend in North Carolina, but I got up, I made a way, and I got there and I got microblading. And then I became interested in expanding from just lashes. So I invested and trained, and microblading is super natural of a look.
Yeah.
It is a semi-permanent tattoo, so I did have to get certified through the state, and my certification of taking the course.
Mhm.
And then just recently, I had the opportunity to say, okay, so I really want to push this thing full circle and specialize in all things brows. So I'm up training this coming week, and I will be also
Girl.
servicing. I'll be able to service ombre and micro shading.
Okay.
Also, a new trend is the brow lamination, which is
I've
like a
seen
perm of the brow.
Mhm. Brows, yeah.
As well as I'm taking a leap further, and I'm going to also complete the lip brushing class. So, with other things to come in the product space for
Okay.
Green Dior in the next year. So,
Girl. Listen,
meanwhile, you guys, I work full time. So,
I was
in a
I was thinking this. It's like, I think she works at a store. I was like, goodness gracious.
yes,
How do you balance it? Do you
I will say
sleep?
it's tough. I do, but it seems like the rest part of it is slightly subjective, because sometimes I feel like I go to sleep at night and then I wake up in the morning. I'm like, didn't I just feel like this last night? Like I didn't rest. But I will say that in doing what you love, the
Yeah.
way that I love what I do,
Yeah.
it is like almost a hobby that pays me, like, if that makes sense. Like, it's something I enjoy, just like people that do knitting or they do these incredible intricate balloon designs. They like setting up space to and creating beautiful things, and I just happen to be blessed enough to get paid to do it.
Yeah.
So it works. I try, and now, because I did have a moment at the end of 2021 where things got difficult for me in my personal space, physically, medically, and mentally and emotionally. So I took
Yeah.
a little time away, but my conversation with God was very clear over a few weeks, and to say, if and when you help bring me out of this type of headspace, I won't look back in doubting myself. I
Yeah.
won't stop. I will continue to be in pursuit, but
Mhm.
take pauses as I need to, take breaks, and really rely on the people that are sincere with their support of me, and take the moments that I need to really reflect and get back to the basics, which I had to really get myself back to say, I need more time in faith. I need more reading time. I need to be watching service or attending service. And there was this big push for me to get back into philanthropy.
Mhm.
So everything just started to come full circle. And when you really just trust and believe and start to put the things in place as they need to be, which is your priority and your faith first, things really do line up. And it's so easy to catch yourself going through the day-to-day hustle, but you
Mhm.
have to think, did I stop to pray? Or that extra 45 minutes I had this morning laying in bed scrolling, I could have been listening to a service, or I could have been on a podcast that's inspiration based. So
Mhm.
really just trying to get back to the basics and your core fundamentals, which we're human, we all get caught up
Yeah.
sometimes. And just bringing that back, reeling it in, and getting back to the things that are really important and putting those first. Everything else will come to play. He'll give you the extra rest you need,
Mhm.
rejuvenate you when you feel like there's no way, put the right people in your life, remove some people.
Mhm.
And it's the reality of growing up, and then also just being mindful of the type of people that sincerely either need to be there or were there to just show you and guide you a different way.
Yeah.
And, God uses instruments just like bad things happen. Bad relationships and people that don't have the best of intentions sometimes roll into your life. And it's either to say, hey, they need you, but when they need you a little more than you are getting or can or need yourself, then it's too much at risk and you have to reroute
Yeah.
and get back to your priorities and what really completes and make you whole instead of letting people deplete, because people can sincerely deplete from your that cup can stop being so full,
Mhm.
if it and some many times we have to exercise the best judgment and the discernment that he gives us, and when we don't, it's like, okay, well, you choosing this way, so you're gonna learn, but you might learn a little harder than what I was gonna expose your thought process to.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's really good just because the industry, it's a people industry. So you have to learn how to connect with people, but then also realize, not everybody's your friend because it's also a business. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna chat, you're gonna, hang out, you're gonna do all this stuff, but you have to see
Mm-hmm.
who's a
And
friend
you can,
versus who's a I'm paying you
yes.
or you're getting paid type of relationship.
Mm-hmm. And people, a lot of the times, they see what you're doing. They're not transparent with why they're there and supportive means.
Mhm.
I've had people that, really just wanted the inside. They wanted my connections. They didn't really want to see my brands flourish in that respect. But if that's the case, then we can just talk about a consult and I can connect you. We
Right.
don't have to have you employed or part of my team, brand, or family, because I do feel like once you come into my business space, I really do I have all the intention to try and get to the place where I trust you. But it can be a challenge, and people have ulterior motives sometimes. And
Mhm.
so I was listening to a fashion course that I'm taking, and the lead CEO was saying, quick to fire, but no, she said slow to hire, quick to fire.
Wow.
Like, and her thought around that is, I have to really reflect and do a really sound interview and screening.
Mhm.
But the minute that things, you're coached and talked to and trained and purposed in a role, and things aren't clearly working out, or you're not in the type of alignment, or don't have the skill set you portrayed to have, then it's time to consider an alternative.
Yeah.
To your positioning. So, and it's not a bad thing. It's just knowing the timing and knowing, when it's time to make that type of decision is key, because if you let it last too long, people can really destroy something that you worked really hard
Mhm.
for, or ruin the integrity or how people view your business. So you do have to be very cognizant and friendly, but also keep the boundaries set. And if you don't know what that is, you got to learn and start to create some.
Boundaries are so important. I was gonna ask this earlier as far as with the different as ideas come to you and as you're trying to figure out, okay, what's the next thing I'm gonna add, how do you tell the difference between a good idea and a God idea?
That's really good. That's really good. I make lists now,
Mhm.
and what because on my Instagram, I tag myself based on the superlative that I earned back in high school, which was well rounded.
Mhm.
So I miss best all around, and
Mhm.
because I'm talented in so many spaces, it's quick. And when you talk to other creatives, they'll tell you too, like, it's easy to come up with ideas when
Mhm.
you're like this free flowing. but everything doesn't turn into a business, like you don't want to expand so much that people lose focus on what the core niche of the brand is. So to me, I take notes of my ideas and I don't execute right away. I
Yeah.
sit and pray and let things in time, because I'm big on reflection. And as much as I love the people in my life and my core group and all right now, sometimes I literally have to not answer the phone. And I hope they watch this
Mhm.
and with love and understand. Sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm looking right at the phone, but I'm reflecting, I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I'm consulting God. I'm, thinking about past mistakes, things that I've
Mhm.
learned from those mistakes, and just trying to find a easier way, a better way, to just improve my experience and the products that I provide, the services I provide. So that's usually where I come from with God's idea versus my own, because I have to pray about them.
Yeah.
It just, the ideas, that's a gift, but relishing in that gift and turning it into a business or something that I'll actually execute in a formal type of capacity is a whole different thing. And then the second layer to saying, okay, God gives you the direction, then He's expecting you to use those gifts and skills to pick it apart, like
Yeah.
research, figure it out, talk with a couple, of your core people, get some feedback. And if it, I mean, after then that layer of consideration, if you still feel like going forward, I move in it.
Mm.
But some things work and some things don't work. And so when they don't work, it's not that you're a failure, it's how do you repurpose it in a way that is successful, and what does success look like for you, because it looks different for different people at different times. And
Mhm.
one thing I also to this point learned is that it was very valuable. Everything you do and execute is not meant to last forever.
Yep.
The impact will, but I have, turned back and forth on some ideas, some things that I had done once upon a time, and some things that I'm really considering doing now. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh, well, is that in alignment with my brand? Or if not, if people can't create the dot to connect, how would
Mhm.
I do that? How does, and thinking through some things. So it just is never a immediate idea. I used to be a very impulsive person, but with time, age, and experience, I've learned to take my time a little more.
Yeah.
And some of my ideas will be an idea for a year or two before I
Mhm.
ever even do anything with it. And if it's still speaking to me, it's still calling me, that's when I'm like, okay, well, let's get to work and see if this is a sincere possibility.
That's all of this has been so good because you're like the real deal because not only are you going after things, but you're taking the time to get training in them, to actually get
Mhm.
the real accurate, like you said, ethical information behind something before you go into it. Where sometimes as creatives, and I could say this even as myself, like you feel like you have a natural talent, but then the next level of that is to get, if there are specific skills you need to learn, going out, finding who can teach you
Mhm.
those things. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing wrong with saying,
Yes.
I need to learn more.
Yes, absolutely. Self-help books, and then reputable people, like the internet and socials. I find it people, and it's honestly I hate that it's this way, but social is social and it's supposed to be. So I'm like, okay, good. But so many times we use the platforms for things that really are such a waste of time,
Mhm,
and we should be more positive, and everything doesn't have to be about business. It can be a lot of pleasure and things,
mhm,
expressed, and congratulatory moments put out there. But it also is this incredible tool for us to seek out people, get referrals, go read people's websites. Like, the information is plentiful, and if we choose not to seek it out, then we're already doing ourselves and our brands a disservice.
mhm. If you
So
could give advice to someone that's just looking out on social, trying to see like who they can learn from, what are some things that they should look for?
Okay, great question. I would look for longevity,
Mm-hmm.
sustainability. These people with reputable brands have websites and they work with people.
Mm-hmm.
So many of the times, clients that they've worked with either would provide a referral or be posted somewhere on their page. Reach out to people that have purchased from somebody like myself. My entire website, it probably needs to be updated again because I keep getting new clients, but I have an entire model resume that lists the brands that I work with. If you have any questions about how I perform when I show up, you can also see a number of the photographers and videographers I work with. If you have questions and like, oh, well, is Mal really that great moving in front of the camera? I also model coach, and I've had styling clients as well that would speak to services, professionalism, timeliness, things like that. So I would tell anybody that's really seeking to work with professionals to look out for longevity, sustainability, reputable referrals, and client lists and people that they've penetrated over their time span. And
Mm-hmm.
if they're looking on business pages that haven't been posted in months or even weeks at this point, it's kind of like, wow, like you've been weeks without, but having a little checkpoint and telling people, hey, I'm taking a break, or hey, out of the office, setting those boundaries and creating limitations around, because I tell people I do business from 9 to 9. So all times of the day, I'm working in business. And if the person that you're interested in seeking a service from never seems available or won't reply to an email or making I would say small businesses, it gets tough sometimes because we're our only employee. A lot of the time we're the employee CEO. So within 72 hours, if somebody hasn't reached back out, do a tasteful follow-up. But after that, if you haven't heard, I would then question, okay, is this somebody that really is passionate and persistent about what they do professionally?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a client, I'm looking and interested in working with you and learning from you, coaching wise or whatever it may be, product wise. And if you can't get a response, these are things to definitely pay attention to.
Well, thank you so much. I'm like, I could keep asking questions, but
Girl, we
you know,
could. We
these,
could keep this up.
this can keep going. I may have to do invite you back for a part two. I want to
I
honor
love
your
that.
time. But for all those that are watching, tell them where they can find you on the socials.
I am on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and TikTok, all at Mal the Model, which is MAL the Model. You can find my production pages on Facebook and Instagram at Crusade of Curves. My website is www.malloryb.com and www.thecrusadeofcurves.com. And I link my businesses in my Instagram page. So if ever, you're like, I want to follow all her pages, well, they are tagged, honey. And if you need some brow services,
See, come
we are
on.
going to be booking. Okay. We are super excited and going to need models and influencers that we want to work with. So lots to come. So definitely connect with me online. Those are my main platforms. And you're inspiring me all the more because I've been wanting to tap into more YouTube. So maybe at some point I'll make my way over there and have
Never know.
some other funness to happen in the YouTube space.
You like need to play that DJ Khaled and another one for every business, for
Yes.
every business that launches.
Yes.
Yes.
We are seeking growth this year. I am really sincere about having one or two people on staff this year. So
Mhm.
with God and my preparedness, faith is going to happen. I'm super excited about it.
Yay, I believe that for you. Praying alongside you that that
Thank
will
you.
occur. And for those that are watching, you all watch her space for all the things that she said that she's doing, because I believe it's going to happen and she's already doing it. So there's proof in that pudding. And thank you all for watching The Creative's Purpose. Continue checking out the episodes. If you have any suggestions for other people you want to hear from or other industries you want to learn about, write those things in the comments. And I will see you all later. Bye.
Bye.